lovely conversation. But yeah, we went to Orlando for a vacation, and Orlando is kind of in the middle, right, of Florida, and so we kind of wound up. We took a day and drove to the Atlantic. Uh, uh, Gosh, I can't remember the name of the beach. I think it was, boy, it started with a C. It was like some kind of, I don't recall, but it's
Okay.
kind of a well-known beach. But the Atlantic beach is, or at least as far as I'm aware, the Atlantic beaches, the water's a lot colder, and they tend to be more rocky and some of that stuff. And we took another day and drove to Tampa and went to the Gulf Beach over there, and it was just you know soft sand and warm water, and it was just a much more kind of what you subscribe for in a beach experience. I think is kind of the thing. So yeah, the Gulf Beach was wonderful at Tampa there. So
Nice.
we liked that more. We really went to Orlando to experience Universal Studios, which was pretty
Okay.
awesome. But
Was
yeah,
it?
yeah. Well,
Because I've
my
never been
daughters,
there.
my daughters and I are huge Harry Potter fans. You've
Okay.
probably heard me mention that on the show a few times. That was kind of I had a coworker that was talking about how she wasn't going to see the Harry Potter movies until her kids got big enough to read the books together. And I was like, oh, that is a fantastic idea. And so I did that same thing. And so my girls and I read. I mean, it took most of a year for us to get through those books. I mean, they're
Right.
long,
They
but
are.
and there's a bunch of them. So, but we got through it, and it was such a great experience to go through those epic stories with my girls. And I mean, it really lit their reading passion that they have. So, will always hold a very special place in my heart. So that was why we went to Universal, was to check out the Wizarding World of Harry Potter there.
Was it cool?
It was really cool. I expected it to be bigger. I thought there'd be more to it. It was kind of, we saw most of it pretty quickly, and we had allotted 2 days to spend at Universal, and I thought it was just going to be Harry Potter the whole time. We wound up going and checking out some of the other Universal stuff because there really wasn't 2 days worth of Harry Potter stuff there, but
Okay.
it was pretty cool to kind of see some of that stuff come to life, in the real world. It was really, and the rides were pretty. I mean, just uh, over the top. I mean, just the
Okay.
effort that went into creating those 3D experiences and all of that stuff. And yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I used
So
to love those books as a kid too, and getting to experience that for the first time again, or
yeah,
like if you could just like rewind time just to experice it, you know,
yeah.
that very first time. I'm
I
jealous
hate
of
you.
their
I
they
hate you
got
for
to.
being a kid while those books were big,
Yeah,
but you know,
yeah, it was. That was back when you actually had to go to the bookstore, like you
yeah,
know, like the
yeah.
new Harry Potter book dropped, and that was like a big thing. And um, our local bookstores they would sell out, and our hidden spot to grab it was Costco.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yep,
cool.
because Costco would just have thousands of them just laid out across like these gigantic tables in the middle of the store,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we'd just go grab them there.
Well, yeah, it was cool too because I just bought the whole set on Kindle edition, and I bought both of my girls' Kindles. And if we have all the Kindles on the same account, right? I mean, it's got the sync up and everything, so I could buy the books once, and we all had a copy, with our Kindles in hand. And so, it was just super easy, and we just read through them, and it was cool. But yeah. Buying books, yeah, that's well, I guess I buy books now, but I don't have to go anywhere to do it. It's just,
Right.
click the button and it's there on the Kindle, which is pretty cool. Are you a Kindle guy?
Yeah. Now, um, just because it's so much more convenient.
Yeah.
A lot of bookstores have closed, but there's nothing quite like going to the bookstore though. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it's a nice experience, especially when they've got a coffee shop in the bookstore and all of that. Yeah,
yeah,
we there
it's
there
just
was
that
one.
smell.
Yeah, here in Denver, the Tattered Cover is kind of this big bookstore. The original one is kind of in not too far away from my house, but then there's been a couple. There's another one in downtown, and then there was one that was real close to my house, and they wound up moving that location, so it's not quite as close. but it's cool too. I mean, Barnes and Noble is great as well, but the local shop, kind of feel of that place, and
Right.
they always had everything too, and and just as big as Barnes and Noble. Well, not as far as the chain goes, but as far as the store and having everything there. So yeah, it's a neat place to be able to just go hang out. And the kids, we don't do as much of that anymore. We don't go to the library as much anymore because they get a lot of books from school and some of that stuff. But that used to be kind of the big thing, was either go to the bookstore or go to the tattered, or I mean go to the library.
Yep, that was my childhood as well. Just kind of, we were always either at the library or the bookstore, just picking
Yeah,
something up. I used to read a lot.
yeah,
Um,
not anymore.
I just don't. Well, I guess the reading is different because it's consuming news articles or
Yeah,
blog posts or things like that. So it's not necessarily printed medium, but
yeah,
still do a lot of reading.
yeah. I've found that I read quite a few nonfiction books. A lot of uh, I hate the term self help because I don't think that's what I read. But I think a lot of the kinds of things that I like to read, most people would slot into that. A lot of productivity and lifestyle, that kind of stuff.
Right.
I do read a lot of that stuff, but it takes a long time for me to read one of those books. It's kind of, I like to read those while I'm taking a shit or something like that, but the things that I read that I can't put down, that I just tear through, are always fiction. It's those
Yeah.
novels that I just love to read. And I don't do as much of that as I should, as much as I really like it.
Right. No, I don't know if my taste have just changed or what, but like when I was a teenager, I'd just pick up a book and I'm like, oh, 8 books in the series, no problem. And now
Yeah.
like I'll read the back and I'll read, 20, 25 pages and I'm like, eh. And I
Yeah.
just kind of put it down and I'm like, man, this would have totally captured me back then. Like,
Yeah.
don't
But yeah,
know.
I get I put a Star Wars novel on my Kindle, and it's like, forget about talking to me till I'm done with that thing.
Yeah, I've never actually gone through any of those novels. Are they good? Would you
I
recommend?
haven't done many of them, but yeah, I mean, varying quality. There's a whole bunch of different authors that write a bunch of different ones of them. But what I found to be absolutely riveting was the Darth Bane trilogy. So 3 books about this dude that is the originator of the rule of two, right?
Okay.
Fantastic. Just, I mean, beyond just being cool stories about this guy and how he becomes the Sith Lord and all of that stuff, but real philosophical stuff about kind of the nature of power hungry organizations and corruption. And the thing that he was rebelling against with the Sith was that the strongest would rise to become the Sith Lord, the leader of the Sith, but then the many underlings would band their power together to be able to overthrow the strongest, right? And so the order was weakened because of the numbers. And so the rule of two was his response to that phenomenon, that ultimately his vision of where the order, the way it should operate, is that there should be a master and an apprentice, and ultimately the apprentice will get powerful enough to challenge the master. And so the job of the master is to make sure that the order is as powerful as it can be by creating the most powerful apprentice that he can. And ultimately, when they do battle, then the strongest will survive, and either the master will win and take on a new apprentice and repeat the cycle, or there will be a new master who will then take on an apprentice. And the idea is to always make the strongest will survive. A very Darwinian view of the thing, and it's fun. It was just really. Just I enjoyed it. I'm not crazy about the way that the trilogy ended.
Okay.
When his apprentice finally took him on. I won't spoil it, but it was. It was cool. It was cool, and he saw fault in the leaders that were training him in the Sith ways, and so he killed them all.
I was gonna make a corollary to real life there, like, but I'm just gonna leave that alone now. But are they considered canon?
I believe so. Yeah,
Okay. I would
I'm
assume
not
they're
quite sure.
sanctioned because they have the name Star Wars on them. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, this is like, 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin or something along those lines. This is
Okay.
ancient Sith lore, but I mean, but the whole, I mean, everything is already technologically advanced and as though it's in the future from our perspective, right? So,
Right.
it was already a very technologically advanced kind of a thing and really not distinguishable, I think, from from the trilogies, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, so they kept the tech in line with the trilogy stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you've
Okay.
got, interplanetary hyperspace kinds of, capabilities and
Okay.
stuff like that, and droids and yeah,
So they've been rocking that world for 1,000 years at least. Like,
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to see some kind of evolution of the tech, I guess, in that galaxy, but yeah, I don't know.
yeah, that'd be cool. That would definitely be something interesting.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting too that like there was this big battle between the Sith and the Jedi, and the leader of the Jedi was General Hoth, right? I'm like, oh yeah, we're kind of filling in some historical gaps on where some of these systems got their names and stuff like that. But
Okay. Yeah,
that's
that
kind
is
of
cool.
yeah.
So what else have you been up to?
Well, let's see. Soccer seasons are now over for my kids, so I have my evenings back. I'll not be doing soccer practices 4 days a week. Actually, 5 days a week, I guess it was. Yeah, 5 days of soccer practice are done. So it's good and bad. It's a lot of fun to be out there with those kiddos. But it's my son is just gung ho for soccer. I've been playing lots of FIFA, Xbox, video
Okay.
game soccer with him. So that's kind of the other thing that's going on.
Is that what you
Evening,
filled the time with? More family time?
it's a big part of it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I've been trying to read some books with him too. He's gotten really into reading Boba Fett stories. So that's
Okay.
kind of his favorite reading that tech reading genre, I guess, is reading some Star Wars books, which is cool. They're a
Yeah.
little bit more advanced than his reading level, so it's
That doesn't stop anybody though.
it's pretty slow going, but he likes those stories. So and it's kind of neat too, because it's like it's 10-year-old Boba and kind of his evolution into becoming the bounty hunter that he's destined to be. So it's neat stories, and he can relate to being a kid and stuff. It's kind of funny, kind of seeing some of Boba's thought process about never having a mother and some of that stuff. And it's some things that I wouldn't have really thought were the things that would be on his mind, but of course they would be, right? Being
Right.
being a clone. So yeah, and his devotion to his father and the way he looked up to him, and it's neat.
Yeah, uh, there was a GameCube game when I was real young or younger. Um, it was called Bounty Hunter. It was Star Wars Bounty Hunter, and it was kind of Boba Fett's story, but it was set from uh, after his dad died until I don't like it was. I don't know much of it because it wasn't. I don't know if it was canon, but like he was fighting like Sith lords and like
Mm.
you would like go through this big open world scanning people looking to see if they were wanted or not, and
Huh,
then you would capture them or do whatever you needed to do, and there'd be fights and things like that. It was a pretty cool game.
fun. Yeah. Yeah, so in the stories, basically, Django was working for Count Dooku, and so he was supposed to be the keeper of a bunch of credits that were in store for Boba, and Aura Singh, the bounty hunter, captures Boba and takes him off to Count Dooku, and he winds up running away because Dooku is doing all these secret things, and he's not sure whether to trust him, which is probably a pretty good choice.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a battle to survive, and at the point we are now, haven't finished the story, but Aura Singh had taken his father's ship, Slave One, right, and so and now he's kind of on a mission to try to get it back from her,
Okay.
and she's a badass bounty hunter. She was in Clone Wars quite a bit,
Hmm.
if you ever watch those cartoons, and so she's a force to be reckoned with. So it'll be interesting to see that.
Right.
In fact, in Clone Wars, they were kind of kind of a group of bounty hunters that were working together on some missions and stuff. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see how they wind up making peace and what happens
Yeah.
there. But Well, I guess they never actually. Bounty hunters never make peace with each other, right? They just have they trust each other enough to work together so they can get
Right.
a payday. That's about the extent of it.
Good old mercenaries.
Yeah, indeed.
The yeah, I wish I could remember who it was because it was a female Sith, and that always stuck out to me as a child because at least from what I remember, there aren't any female Siths in popular media.
Yeah, so I think you're thinking the one from Clone Wars, right? Um, Asajj Ventress is the one in Clone Wars. She was
Possibly.
Dooku's apprentice in Clone Wars, and my daughter just loves her. It's kind of funny
Yeah.
that
Let's see.
but she's a neat character, and Clone Wars was fantastic. But
I never finished Clone Wars. I had watched it in and out. And my friends were really into it, and we watched it at a party one time. But uh, there was too many drinks that night, so I don't remember a ton of that one.
down the stretch in Clone Wars, I don't think it was the final season. I think it might have been the second to last. I kind of missed some of them. The kids watched some of them without me, but
Oh,
there was an amazing storyline toward the end of the. I think there were 6 seasons of Clone Wars or something like that. So it was the fifth or sixth season. But
okay.
Anakin's apprentice, Ahsoka Tano, just the way that she, well, I would spoil it if I said too much about it. If you're ever interested in fully catching up on
Yeah.
that, but it was absolutely awesome.
Okay. I'm gonna have to finish that up then.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of funny. The first season was, I think, a bit of a kids show. It was kind of these preachy morals, and they finished each episode with here's the moral of the story and kind of some of that stuff. But after
Okay.
that, it became more of kind of a philosophical filling of the gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and it was and just some really neat stories too.
Yeah. So her name is Vosa.
Vosa, I don't think I know that one.
Vosa.
Komari Vosa. She looks badass.
Yeah. And and in the GameCube days, I was like, oh, graphics are never gonna get better than this. Like,
Yeah.
and that game is so dated now. Like, if you actually take a peek at it, like, oh,
So she's a contemporary of Jango Fett. Interesting.
oh yeah, I remember this story now. Yeah, she was the Jedi Padawan, and then
Which is
she
similar
left.
to Asajj Ventress because she was also, a young Jedi
Uh,
turned to the dark side. And in Clone Wars, Asajj gets betrayed. Basically, Sidious tells Dooku that she's getting too powerful, and he has to get rid of her.
Okay. Oh, she actually came right before Asajj Ventress.
Oh, okay,
After Vosa's death, her lightsabers remained in Darth Tyrannus' possession for years until he gave them both to Asajj Ventress.
cool. Yeah, and she was always a two bladed fighter, so that makes sense.
Yep, yep, that does. It all connects. See that
Yeah.
that's real cool. Like,
Oh yeah, it's as much as history as history of the Earth.
yeah,
It's pretty
and
wild.
I like how they try to keep it all together. That's
Yeah,
why I asked if the books
consistent.
were canon because if they are, then that means that like everything's connected and it all fits together correctly. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about the whole expanded universe about how what's canon and what's not, and I think that the canon has now shifted, right? Since Disney has taken over, and the new movies are
right,
are ch- changing some things from some of the expanded universe books, which I guess okay, an alternate story. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but
right. Yeah. The Are you excited for next month?
oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I
We
I
we
was
always we always go out as a group. Our entire office. We all go to the theater together.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, last year, or well, the last couple, I kind of thought, well, do I really want to be dragging the kids through this giant crowd, a horde of people and all of that stuff? So I don't, we haven't traditionally gone, right at the opening. We've waited
Okay.
a couple weeks, but I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
if you
see.
go if you go on the weekdays, I don't know what your theaters are like, but they upgraded all of our theaters in Vegas to the reclining seats,
Oh
at
yeah.
least most theaters, and they're all reserved. So
Yeah. Yeah. We have that too.
you just okay, yeah, and so we just go on Fandango and book the entire row, and
Cool.
there's a lot
Yeah.
less to deal with. You're not like, oh, do I have a seat or am I going to get a good one? I got to get there an hour and a half early. Like, there's none of that anymore. So you just kind of get your snacks and you show up and sit down.
Yeah. Cool.
Uh, and if you go during the week, it's not that packed.
That's a good
I
thing.
found,
Yeah.
I
That makes
found,
sense.
um, just because most people don't have the luxury of going at 12:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But it it's always been a good experience. And then because everyone in the office, they're all Star Wars fans. Like,
Yeah.
um, there's one dude, he wears a Star Wars shirt every day. Every day.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And he must have like 50 of them. Like, some of them are real good, and he doesn't divulge his sources. But but
That's
yeah,
cool.
seeing them get all fired up about it, it's usually it's fun to watch.
Yeah. I was doing a contract at one place, and I was using "there is no try" as my password for some of the systems there. And when somebody made a comment about it, I was like, oh, I see that the passwords are unencrypted, right? Because somebody could see what my password was. So, oh, that tells me something. So,
Yeah, we integrated a authentication service for our website instead of building it ourselves. We used Auth0, and um, it surprised me because their their React library doesn't work if you do. Um, I can't remember the exact thing. This was like back in February, but we couldn't use their main library. We had to integrate their SDK, and they would they just send the password in plain text.
wow.
Granted, it's HTTPS and secured and all that, but I'm like, when I was like sniffing traffic, trying to figure out debugging some issues with login, and I click it, and I was like, hey, that's my password. You can't put that there. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
as an authentication place, maybe. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter because if it's client side, the server still needs to know about it somehow. So
Yeah, yeah. That
I
was kind
get
of the
it.
thing. Yeah. That was kind of what the like the likes of LastPass and 1Password and all of those services, right? They offer the ability that you can share passwords with people. And it's like you can share it with them without actually sharing it with them. And I'm like, well, okay, you don't actually show it to them and you let them have it, but you can't share it with them without sharing with them, right?
Right.
And so I tried it out, and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, if I hook up a proxy to look at the traffic that's going through, sure enough, I can see those passwords that somebody shared with me, right? So it's not like they're not shared with me. Yes, the UI doesn't show it, but I can grab those passwords if somebody shares one with me.
Right. Yeah, that's the concept of sharing a password is
Yeah, sharing without sharing is not.
yeah,
You can't do it.
right. And just why would you share like a password? Like, I don't know.
Well,
It
I mean,
just
if
seems
you're outsourcing some work to somebody and you want them to be able to log into your account, I get it. I mean, there's reasons that you might want somebody to be able to get into your email to send an email on your behalf or something along those lines, or into your YouTube account to upload your videos for you, or
that's true.
something like that, right? Just
I
outsourcing
would
stuff.
right. I would think that those would be API driven though.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I don't know. Like, maybe I just don't trust anybody enough to send something as me. But
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If you have to, if you have to give somebody your credentials to get into your account, well, then that's a feature that's missing from that system.
yeah,
You should be able to authorize somebody else to do stuff if you know, if that's a real use case.
Right. Like we use Datadog for monitoring, and I gotta say, their login system is not good. Like, because everyone you invite is on your team, and you're either a team member or you're an administrator. There's no in between.
Hmm.
So, like, business users, we capture data metrics that they are probably interested in, even at just a high level. Um, but I can't give them an account because then that gives them access to everything, and they could change things, they can do whatever, and it's like I don't necessarily need to empower them to make operational alert changes. But at the
Oh,
same
yeah.
time, the only thing I can do is create a dashboard with the metrics that they want and then make it public and never give them a login. And I'm like, that's not the answer. Like, at least I
Yeah.
don't think it's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. API might be an answer to be able to surface
Yeah,
a dashboard, but yeah, that requires work. So,
right.
you know,
Like they like the whole point of paying them because they're an open source company. Like if I wanted to keep track of the time series database myself, then I wouldn't pay them.
yeah.
But they do a good job at it and it's fast. I've never had a problem with it.
Yeah.
But they charge a small fortune, I gotta say.
So, but the stuff you want to surface requires being an admin?
Not an admin, but
Oh,
like I want to be able to like give them access because like the only thing that sucks about making a dashboard public is it's now public. Like
hmm.
if that URL gets leaked or it goes out to our clients or something like that, they can see our entire client list because we're tracking how many calls they're sending us.
Yeah.
That's data that no one else should have.
Yeah.
And making it public, I was like, I don't know about this,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. 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 If you
business one.
the obscurity of the URL is not really a security policy.
Exactly. Like, and it's pretty long, so you'd have to guess it. But I was like, you could literally just ping this resource with every character combination to see what's out there.
Yeah.
Now
Hire the
you,
Russians.
or if you're doing that ad fraud stuff, it doesn't seem like it'd be that hard to make a bot to do it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you heard about that?
I think so. Just a bot to do ad fraud. I mean, basically election stuff, right? That's what we're talking about.
Well, I
Yeah.
actually heard about it on Software Engineering Daily. He does a lot of these, and
Wow.
they're people who set up like shell sites essentially that show like 300 ads on a page, and then all they're doing is finding ad tech aggregators, and they'll pay you obviously because you're showing ads, and they don't care if the traffic's good or not because they're just massaging it into everything with real traffic and taking money from upstream essentially.
Hmm.
And like at least with the way that I hear it on that podcast, like it doesn't seem like it's that hard. You set up some content and I see it more. Have you ever seen like sites when you Google something tech related and it brings up like some blog and all it is the Stack Overflow you read two
Oh
links
yeah,
up?
yeah, yeah.
Like 100% I think that's ad fraud because
Ah,
like all it's doing is showing you ads with content that they stole from somewhere else.
yeah,
Like there's nothing meaningful on that blog, and if you ever go to the homepage, it's literally just aggregated junk. They're just
yeah.
stealing it from the web.
Well, they're doing something really good with SEO too, to be as high on the search results as they are.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. How are they? Because I
Yeah,
mean, it'll be like four links under the actual Stack Overflow. Like
yeah, yeah. I
unless
don't.
Google's considering the content is near the same with just a little variation.
Yeah, I guess it is relevant in
Right.
that sense. Yeah,
Because I mean, it's going to be 99% the same, so
yeah,
put them closer to each other.
yeah. Well, never-ending game of cat and mouse, right? Once Google changes something so that that doesn't show up, then it's something else.
Right. They're finding that out with YouTube right now with their whole demonetization bots.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
They've it must be nice to be Google, where you can just make those decisions, where you're like, I'm gonna deploy this AI, and yeah, it's gonna screw you out of money, but it'll be better in 6 months, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people who are making content on YouTube, they switch to Twitch, or I mean, that's really your only other alternative at this point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's terrible to be so dependent on, them for the platform and the audience and everything. And you really don't own your stuff when it's on there, which is a bad place to be.
right, and especially if like that's your job, like you go out and make content 12 hours a day to put it on YouTube to get some of that ad revenue, and they're like, you said a bad word here, so we're gonna demonetize the entire half-hour video. It's
Yeah.
like, but I
Yes.
mean,
Please,
who else?
overlords. Yeah.
Yeah, like who else are you gonna be able to go to? Like, there's nobody to really compete with YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, being able to handle that kind of bandwidth and traffic and, you know, the enormity of that data. Yeah, that's that is it requires one of the biggest companies in the world to be able to do that.
Yeah, I always wondered how YouTube did it before Google took them over or acquired them,
Yeah.
because I was like, how did they? Because I mean, that's a gigantic tech problem. Like, that's not a
Yeah.
small feat to be able to have a video streaming across the world like
Yeah.
they did.
It wasn't as big as it is now, right?
Yeah,
I mean, orders of magnitude probably difference, but still, I mean, it was big enough.
yeah, and I just because I remember the metrics like back then in 2008, 2009, where it was like, oh, there's 1,000 minutes or 10,000 minutes being uploaded every single minute
Oh
on
man.
YouTube, and like it was just this big metric. And I remember back then, and I wasn't in the tech space a whole lot, but I was familiar with it enough, and I was like, I wonder how they handle this, because like there's probably 100,000 people around the world all streaming from these servers. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I don't know who it was. I mean, I think I'm thinking of Flickr that was like a husband and wife, right? But I don't know
okay,
who was behind YouTube.
yeah, I'm not sure. Something makes me want to say MIT.
Oh, okay.
I might be wrong.
I know what's the big CDN? The big CDN was from MIT. The Hawaiian word, akamai. That's
Oh,
that's not
okay.
Hawaiian, is it? That might.
Mm,
I don't know. But yeah, that was I think an MIT professor and a bunch of graduate students that put that together.
okay. No, actually, they weren't. They were working at PayPal.
Oh,
Chad Hurley, Steve Chen, and Jared Kareem. They studied. One of them studied at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and then the other two studied together at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, I want to say. Well, they got purchased by Google in 2006.
man, that's a long time ago.
That just invalidates my entire story. Holy smokes. The
That's a long
website,
time.
before they were acquired, they had an average of 100 million video views per day in July. Wow. Interesting. I didn't know that they got acquired. There's a lot of big people that came out of PayPal.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, that must have been the place to be back then. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
was that
Technical
a
and non-technical
destination
people.
job? Like, everyone's like, "Oh, you got to work like I wish I worked at Facebook or Google or Amazon." Was that a thing? Like, everyone wanted to work at PayPal?
I didn't know of it if it was, but
Okay.
I was never really a big, Silicon Valley, kind of,
Okay.
want to be, I worked my local job, and that was pretty much the extent of it.
Okay. Yeah, do you remember last week when I was talking about that Google foobar test?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I spent all day Saturday and part of the day Monday doing these challenges, and most of them were pretty easy. It was kind of like math oriented for a couple of them. I did get a problem about generating prime numbers, which was kind of fun, but I get to like it's the last question of the third level, and after you finish the third level, you get an email from a recruiter at Google, and they'll contact you and things like that. So it was a question about they'll give you an array that contains all the data for a row in a maze. And circles are free squares and X's are walls. And it was calculating your way through the maze and then taking out one of the walls to shorten the path. Like which you only take out one. So what
Huh.
one wall can you take away from this maze to make the path the shortest?
Wow. Optimization.
And yeah, and I was like, all right, so it's a breadth first search because it has to be within a couple of seconds, I think. So, it's either got to be a breadth first or a Dijkstra's. And I was starting to write it, and then I was like, I don't think I want this bad enough because, like, I don't want to spend the next 3 hours coding this breadth first search. Like, I was just like, I started it, and I was like, it's not that big of a thing for me. Like,
Huh. Well,
because the only thing I didn't know how to do was, and mainly because it was time constraint,
mm,
was because they could have up to a 20 by 20 maze for you to figure out, is what the requirements were. And I think you only had like 2 seconds to calculate your way through the maze and then calculate which wall to remove to get rid of it. And getting through the maze, I was like, okay, that's not that bad. But having to figure out which one wall to take off, like I feel like that would take more time than what they allotted.
yeah, that's a tough problem.
Yeah. So, and I looked it up and I was like, yep, I didn't understand the way that they solved it, and I was like, well, they got me. Like, because like, I was trying to go through it without looking anything up because I was like, what's the point? Like, if you're gonna
So
cheat,
is it billed as you have to get this right in order to proceed though? I mean, I would think that they might kind of look at what your effort looks like and kind of see how you approached it. And even if you didn't get the right algorithm, maybe there's still some potential in you or something like that.
maybe. I know that in order to get the email from them, you have to beat level 3.
Oh,
So you have to solve at least 6 problems. Um,
okay.
and I'm not sure that they let you like skip, like where you're like, I don't want to do this problem.
Okay.
But um,
So you do have to have a working solution in order for it to
that's
be a
that's what I
completion.
believe. Yeah.
Huh.
And the first three they were pretty easy. I have the code samples somewhere because I saved them, but they ask you not to post them, so I'm not going to. But
Mm.
the yeah, some of them they were interesting.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. That's fun.
I think I think I have a link if you ever wanted to try it.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I don't know if I would take the time to do it, but maybe. Yeah.
It's here. I don't know if my coworker ever used it because he had done it before, and he he had indicated that he got bested by a problem, and it didn't let him do it again because he had already done it once. So when I sent him the invite link, it was like, no, you can't do this.
Oh, really? Huh.
Let's see, status. Oh, yeah, says it's ready.
So you got an invite link because somebody else invited you? Is that? I think you said
Uh,
that last time.
no, no. Google invited me because it came from the search.
Ah,
But the after you beat I think it was 2 levels or something like that. It was like, hey, know anybody else who likes a challenge? Here's a link.
Ah, okay.
And so, and there it is.
Cool.
Yeah. So if you ever want to check it out. But I wonder if it'll let me yeah, my invitation expired.
Interesting. That's neat how they did that.
Yeah. Um Working in a terminal so much, I used the clear command to try and get rid of all the output, and it threw in an exception and popped an alert on the page, and I was like, "Do I win now? Like, do I get to show them that I broke their site?" And then they give me the interview, like.
That's fun. That's cool. Yeah, so you're in a shell here, and huh,
Yep,
buck up
and
and
that's
get
all they give
working.
you.
Interesting.
Yep. So as long as you don't do request, it won't start your time. So you can start it whenever you want.
Huh, cool.
Um, and what's interesting is every problem is timed. It's not an overall time. So they'll give you a day to solve this one, a day to solve this one. The next level gives you 2 days, and the level after that gives you 3.
Man, you got to want it
But
bad to go through all that.
that's what I'm saying. Like I spent the one day on it and got through the first 2 levels, and then I started the third one, and I was like, all right, I just don't know. Like the time sink there.
Yeah.
You gotta really want it.
Yeah. Well, kind of like, it must be nice to be Google to be able to just say, okay, here's the AI that's gonna take away your money, right? Must be nice to be able to say you've got to spend days on these problems in order to, yeah, they've got high demand for their jobs, and that's
Yep.
a nice place to be if you can do it.
And that kind of goes against the like interviews where they're like, "Oh, I want you to do this problem and bring it in or whatever." And it's like for a job interview, I don't know that I'm going to spend 2 days on something. Like
Yeah.
that should be an hour max. Like I guess the Google thing's a little bit different because you're essentially proving yourself to be worthy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's
when
like saving the princess or something, right? Getting access to.
our our colo in New York City is in the it's in a Google building in Manhattan. It used to be a like a colo for everybody, and then Google bought it out. And getting to talk to some of the people on the elevator there, I
Hmm.
was like their problems sounded really cool, but I was like, I don't know if like I would want to do that, like, because they're at this next level of breakthrough, and it's like there is no answer to their problem yet.
Hmm.
Like they have to find it.
Well, I think
And
they're also, they live for work, right?
right,
And that I think is the thing that would turn me off the most about it. Yes, it's nice to have chefs and all of the benefits that they have at the Googleplex, but it's also expected that you are going to pretty much live there. So
right. Like any job that's like, hey, just bring your laundry, someone will take care of it. You don't have to worry about dinner or lunch. If you want breakfast, we got that too. Like the, it was like when I was talking to my coworker about Twitch because they're always hiring, and I was taking a peek, and I was like, oh, dude, they have catered lunches every week, and then they have catered dinners or whatever. And he goes, well, if they're offering catered dinners, then that means they expect you to be there for dinner.
yeah,
And I was like, whoa, I was like, you're right. Like it didn't cross my mind. I was like, oh, you could just eat and then leave or whatever. But chances are, if you're eating, you're gonna stay. Like,
yeah, yeah. And if you're leaving when everybody else stays, there's going to be social ramifications of that and
yeah,
performance review ramifications, and It's yeah.
Yeah, that is my boss does that occasionally. Uh, they're the 9 to 6ers as he refers to them.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I mean, you're only paid for 9 to 6, so why would you stick around much past 6? He's
Yeah.
like, well, if there's stuff to do. And I was like, yeah, well, it'll be there tomorrow. Like, you can't. Like, at least I try not to hold it against somebody. Like, oh, you leave at 6 every day. Like,
I had a woman on the show who there's this YouTube video of her giving this talk that is absolutely epic on that topic. So
okay,
she says that the 40-hour week should be not a minimum, but a maximum. And yeah, her talk was called "Go the Fuck Home," and it was awesome. So yeah, let's see. You put something in the chat, and I clicked it. There's this. Oh, you know what? I should put that in Slack too because it is that good. Everybody else should see that too.
all right. I will put that on my watch later. That's the one thing I do like about it. When I Chromecast and I have stuff in my watch later, it just adds it to the playlist and starts playing it. So
Cool.
anything where I'm like, yeah, I actually want to see this. Like,
So that's like a YouTube Chromecast feature. Is that how that
yeah,
works?
yeah. So like my TV in my bedroom, I just open the YouTube app, and if I connect to it without playing anything, um, if I play something and then connect to it, it'll show what I was watching. But if I don't, uh,
Cool.
if I don't select anything and I just say connect to my TV, it'll pop open my watch later playlist, and it's all good from there.
But is there a way to make it go fast?
I mean, it's automatic.
I like to watch videos on accelerated speed. I mean, depending,
Actually, mobile can't do that.
Yeah,
Now I get what you mean. Yeah, no, mobile
yeah,
can't do 2x. Computer can, PC.
yeah. I love. There's a Chrome plugin, video speed, something video speed. I forget the name of it. Video speed adjuster. No, that's not it. Video speed controller is the Chrome plugin that I use, and it's great. It's got the S and D keys mapped when you're watching a video, and it's not just YouTube, right? It plays any HTML5 video, and
Okay.
it increments by 0.1, plus and minus with the S and D keys, and
Okay.
and it's awesome.
Is that how you consume a lot of content?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, my podcast player has built-in, variable speed control, and then yeah, this Chrome plugin, and it's not just video too. It works for audio as well, which is how I do my audio editing for the podcast. Is that I've got my Audacity window open and Chrome also, and I'm listening through it fast in Chrome, and then I go into Audacity when I hear something that I want to edit.
Okay. Is that a manual thing for you? Like doing all the editing? Like
Yeah.
have you gotten into the flow, like like what needs to go, or like while you're recording you're like, oh, I gotta remember like to take this out?
I've experimented with that a little bit to kind of mark time markers, but I find I would rather be in the moment in the conversation, and it's
Okay.
not. I think it's better for me to just be there talking and just conversing, and then after the fact I listen through. So yeah, I've experimented with it, but I don't think I've heard of podcasters doing that, but that's not the way I do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it definitely seems like everybody's got a um like their own flow, if you will, like their
Yeah,
own workflow, like optimizations that they do for that kind of stuff.
yeah. Yeah, my ideal is to outsource the audio editing, but that was working for a while, and then I lost the editor that I really liked, and I have yet to really find one that does what I want. It's there's been a couple of them that it's like as I'm listening to write the show notes, I'm like, oh my God, how did you miss editing that? And so it's like,
Ooh,
oh. So then I
Yeah.
wound up going back and re-editing it anyway, and I'm like, oh,
What did
this,
I pay for? Like,
yeah.
how much do those services cost?
I've been. It's usually what I mean, it's kind of Fiverr is where I've gone to find people, and
Okay.
so it varies a little bit for what they'll sell a gig for on there, but $20 an episode is about 20-25, which I think is very very reasonable. In fact, dirt cheap for the time that it takes to do it. So I'm happy to pay that if I can get somebody who does. In fact, I'd pay more than that for somebody to do a good job with it. But
How you do what, 3 episodes a week?
it's two.
It's two?
I did three at one point a while back, but it's
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
because I'm going through the backlog right now.
When I was doing three, I started getting people tweeting at me telling me, "Hey, I can't listen to these. It's too much. You got to slow down." So I did.
Okay. Gotcha. Too much content. Is there such a
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. Which I mean, you bring up Software Engineering Daily. It's like, holy cow, that
Yeah.
is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I end up picking and choosing usually what I want to listen to from that one because it's like I you're right, I don't there's too much content. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But in some things are not relevant to my interest in tech. Like he just did one on Open Bazaar and I was like, like I was there for the birth of Open Bazaar, like I know what it is, like kind of thing.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and Jeff, I mean, he's a very much a prepare, right? Everything is, like you said, with kind of different approaches to the things, different flows. Yeah, he's it's a lot of effort goes into getting ready for one of his interviews. Whereas, and it's a different focus too, right? My show is more human than really topical. So,
right.
sense that it would be a different approach anyway. But you know, I think it was two. I did two Software Engineering Daily episodes as a guest host.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, because that's how I found you through the latest one that you had done.
oh, okay. Andy Beyer, the API guy, API standards.
API standard.
Well, that was the second one I did for SE Daily. The first one was Derek Comartin on CQRS, essentially.
Command query responsibility segregation. Is that right?
It is indeed, yes.
What is
Champions
that?
of segregation. That's not an easy question to answer in a quick way. The short version of segregating commands and queries is basically creating two models where there once were one. Not trying to serve your requests for views with the same models that you do with the actions that you're taking that are going to mutate state. Right.
Okay.
So having different data stores and different models to serve the read only versus the things that are actually changing stuff. And the benefits of that, it's a much longer story to get into why that is good to segregate. Right? I always it tickles me, it amuses me that to be a champion of segregation. Right? That it's good to segregate. Yeah, that's
The is that used in SQL servers now? Because I know you have to be careful about updating what you're trying to read and inserts blocking reads and
It's a different thing than consistency in relational databases, right? So
Okay.
the ACID properties of databases is one thing, right? And that's all about locking and all of that kind of stuff, and how you deal with data. This is more of an application architecture concern that I think if you go all the way in CQRS, what you basically wind up with is processing events that happen in your system to build what is often referred to as persistent view models, to where the view model that you need to serve a given request in your website is basically just stored in a document in a database, or in a database row or something like that, to where your read model is optimized to serve the queries that show the pages on your website, as opposed to just having this general purpose data store where you're transacting against it at the same time that you're trying to do queries. I think the pain that led to this kind of way of looking at application architecture is the deadlocks that you get when you're doing a bunch of transactions against the database table, and also querying that thing to serve the requests to see the current status of things. So it's usually, CQRS is usually used in some kind of eventually consistent model where you are updating view models to serve, in response to events that are happening based on the commands that come in for, change my marital status. And so then, that gets updated in your write model, right? And then the event comes out and the read model gets updated accordingly.
Okay. That makes sense. I'm still waiting on State Farm to actually do the write module on that, because like I've updated my address with them like 3 times,
Oh
and they
God.
still send stuff to my old address, and I'm like, what do I got to do to get someone to put the right address in this field? Like, and when I go back to the page, it like if I go back to it like in a week, it'll be back to the way it was, and I'm like, how
No
can it
shit.
be? Yeah, I'm like, how can it be different on my screen because it's reading that from somewhere, and then a week later it's back to the way it was? Like,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, that's something ugly going on
I don't,
there.
yeah, I don't get it, but
It's almost like they're
um,
restoring a database backup or something at some
or something.
some cadence.
But like they keep sending like my bills to like my old apartment, and I'm like, what do I got to do to get you to stop? And I've even called my guy, and I'm like, dude, stop. Like,
Wow.
send it here. Like, my policy is here. Why are you sending the bill to the old place? It doesn't make sense. Like, because it's renter's insurance.
Oh,
So it's like, you think, the place that I'm actually getting the insurance that I'm renting from, that'd be the place to send my mail.
yeah, they don't know what they're covering. You could file a claim for the old address.
uh, the that renter's insurance is too cheap though. Like I don't want to rock the boat too much because I don't want to have to leave.
Yeah.
Cause I just prepay it, like, cause they do month to month, and I was like, it's like $200. Like I'll just send you the full year, and I'll worry about it every January.
Yeah. I tend to not give away more money than I have to until I have to, unless they offer a discount for paying the whole year. Then I'm all on board.
That makes sense. I just don't like to think about it.
Yeah.
It, but I'm definitely going that route with my car, cause like I got 7 payments left, I think. Like I almost got this thing paid off. Like I'm real excited. And it's 0%. So I'm like, I could just pay it off now, but I might as well just wait because it doesn't cost me anything. Like,
Yeah. Well, with automatic payments, you never really have to think about it, other than making sure you have enough funds in the bank account to cover it.
yeah, usually I schedule those things. I don't like a ton of auto bill pay because like it'll decide to take it out 2 days early. Because like both of my car payments, one of them's due on the 15th and one of them's the day before, and I get paid the first and the 15th.
Hmm.
So I schedule the payment on the 15th because 2 car payments out of one paycheck is quite a lot of money. So
Yeah.
I try to split those up, but they always try to get me the day before because they want the money on the 15th. They don't want the payment scheduled then. So
Yeah. That is kind of the trouble that I have because I do have so many automatic payments that I don't really know what's happening. And with the way my wife likes to spend money, I should have a closer view on what's going on in the bank accounts, but I haven't taken the efforts to really know what's happening. And yeah, that burns me frequently. And I should, I I, I need to get it on lockdown, but
it sounds just like my father. He
yeah.
says he says literally the same exact thing. He'll be like, I don't know where the money's going, but someone's spending it, and I got to look at some point. But
Yeah, it is ludicrous how much money it just vanishes. It's crazy, and I keep thinking that I'll just try to out earn it, and that's going to be my solution.
uh,
But you know,
it's easier to spend than it is to make.
yeah, yeah,
Well, especially with having kids, like there's a lot of extraneous expenses.
yeah,
Oh, they're doing this project in school. Oh, they need $35 to build the science fair board. Oh, like
yeah.
it all just kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, it used to be that I could tell if she was buying clothes. I'm like, slow down. Why are you going shopping all the time? Right. But now, with the kids, it's like, well, they outgrew their clothes and they need more clothes. And well,
Right.
okay. Yeah. That actually stands to reason. So,
Yeah. Like I remember I was probably like 10 and I had to get 3 pairs of shoes that year
oh
because
my
like I
gosh.
just kept growing and growing and growing and we ended up just going to like Target like the second time and the third time just to pick up, $20 shoes because they're like you're just going to grow out of them in 6 months like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. My son's getting to that point too. He, he,
Yeah.
he was complaining about his shoes being too small. And it was, like 2 months ago that my wife bought those for him. So,
Oh. Yeah, hopefully they're not Nikes or
yeah. It's probably not quite that bad, but she tends to buy him, they've got Star Wars or, some kind of
yeah,
merchandise on them. And I'm sure that adds quite a bit to the price.
maybe. I don't obviously not having children or being in that world at all. I don't
Yeah.
know, but I can't imagine. I remember those shoes as a kid.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine slapping a Star Wars character on the side makes it worth $25 more. But I might be wrong.
I'm sure Disney doesn't give away their licensing super cheap,
That's true.
but
That is true.
yeah.
And shoes are one of those things that's a immediate like, okay, we got to go out. Like
Yeah.
because your feet can get jacked up if your shoes are too small.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. We should all just go barefoot, I think is probably the ultimate answer, but
I mean, they did it once upon a time.
indeed. Yeah.
We,
Well, I think I should probably get going, man.
alrighty,
Kids are gonna want my attention here. So, oh,
alrighty.
it's about Broncos time too. So,
Oh, is that your
not that
team?
that's a big deal. It is, yeah. I mean, to the extent that I have a team, but
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
I'm
hopefully
not
they do
not
good.
not as interested as my wife is, but
All right. Well, hopefully they do good. You have
yeah.
a fabulous Sunday.
All right, you too, man.
I'll talk to you next week.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye.